Audio demo. I'm going to go to the audio demo. Okay, so this is the one that we did last time with the audio demo, and I already showed you how that works and so on. So we've seen this before. Now I want to talk about the 2D arrays again. Yesterday we did a little bit on the 2D arrays, and I showed you how to create one. And C# is not as nice as, say, even like Java or Python or those other languages when you create two-dimensional arrays. And that's kind of unfortunate because arrays are really, really useful. I'm going to go in here and create another button. What do we call it? I'm just going to grab this one and put it here. And we will build a 2D array really quick and show some messages down here, all right? So I'm going to go and turn my Explorer and my properties on. So I want to remove all the events. So click event. Okay, that's gone. I'm going to rename this to say
introduce staff. Hello, is this thing on? Just kidding. Good afternoon, staff. Thanks for everything. I could not have asked for better leadership out of you. Our kids reacted great. You guys reacted great. So many thanks and appreciation. When your area is clear of students and you feel like you're ready to tackle the weekend, by all means, leave when you feel like you're ready to leave. If I don't see you or talk to you, have a great, great long weekend. Refresh, refuel, and thanks for a great start to the year. Talk to you soon. Bye.
okay. All right, so I'm going to change the start to say something like, what should we call this one here? I'm going to do a random thing, okay? It's going to call it RND for random. And I'm going to go up here and create this button, btn_rnd. Okay, that's all I need for now. And then I'm just going to move this around a little bit here. I'll give some space in here. And I'll put this other side over here. I don't need those for now. Say that we have a button here, and I'm going to output some messages to this area here. And this is useful when you create, in your game, like messages and things like that, all right? So I'm going to go and create another label here. We'll put a label right in this center here. And I should probably change this to, let's say, LBL message. And let me just change the font to be a little bit large. I use 20. Okay, so you put the message right here. Okay, so when I double click this RND, it's going to generate a function for me, btn random. And so first of all, we learn about single dimension arrays. If you have an array of, say, strings, we know how to do that. Now, one thing I want to talk about is this thing called mutable data. Mutable data and something called reference data, okay, or reference type. Now, arrays are mutable and they are reference type. Compare that with strings or integers. Okay, so what I mean by a reference type immutable is this. So if you have a number, let's just say int of a is equal to 5, and then you have int b is equal to... Okay, so b points to a, and if you have c is equal to b, right? So in your algebra class, you say if if b is equal to a and c equals to b, then therefore c must be equal to c. Okay, and that's true, right? So if you were to put a equals c, that's going to be true. If I put here result, LBL message dot text is a equals c, to string, and you're going to see that that's true. Okay, very simple like that. If we go and play it now. Okay, see that that's true because A does indeed equal to C. What if I, after this, what if I change like A to 10? Okay. So if I change A to 10, you will see that this is very common. It's no longer true. It's false. And the reason why is because A and B and C, they are not mutable and they are not reference type. They are very primitive data types. They contain the actual data, even though here I'm thinking like I'm pointing B to point to A. And if I change A, then shouldn't B and C be changed as well because they are pointing to the same data. Okay, so you can see that this is not true because they contain a copy of what A has. So B has a copy of A and C has a copy of B, the actual value only. So when you change A's value, it has no effect on the others. Okay? And that is very true because they are not mutable. Now, arrays are different. Arrays, if I make this to an array, I'll just use 2 of them. Well, maybe you can use 3. Okay, we learned to do array yesterday. You can use a curly brace just for one number, one element. And now you see that A and B and C are just like before. If I do this, yeah, I should get the same result. And I'll put another message here to see. I'll put to the list box here so you can see the values of those. Okay, so I put here the lst output dot items dot add. I'm going to add the A of 0 to that list. That's A of 0. I will also show B of 0 and C of 0. So they should all be the same, and I'll compare the other two and I'll put here the true or false. So they should all equal to 5 because they all have 5 in there. So you see that they have 5, 5, 5, and they're true because A is indeed B equal to C. Okay, so that is pretty straightforward. Now the difference comes when I go down here and let's say that I'm going to print these out first, and I'm going to make a change to one of those variables. It doesn't matter which one. Let's just say I want to change C of 0. I want to change its value from original 5 to 10. Okay, and then down here I'm going to write A out again. So this is the fourth one. I'll put a blank line here so we know that that's the new number. Just put blank here. So I'm changing C's value to 10 instead of 5, 5, 5. And if it's not a reference type, you saw earlier that the data should not be changed to A's and B's. Okay? Here I'm just pointing A's out. And so you see that when I click the random button, if it lets me, let me close this first. Okay, so when I click the random button, you see that I changed C's value to 10. The first one was the original values, 5, 5, 5. I changed C0 to 10, and I print A's value down here. But notice that it changed to 10 as well. All right, because this is a reference type. In other words, if I were to print all of them again down here, you will see that they all change to 10. It affects every one of them because arrays are reference type. Okay, so will you make a copy like you did here, like I did here? When I do B is equal to A, it's very different from a string or a Boolean or integer type. Okay, I'm actually giving I create a new variable, but it points to the same memory address of A. So any changes I made after that to any of these variables will affect all the others as well. And you can think of this as your bank account. If you have a bank account and you share with your family members, your friends, and if they have your, a debit card or something, or even like a credit card account, we all share the same account. So if you make changes to that account, it affects everyone. This is the same idea for arrays. Okay? So that's a reference type. Mutable just means once you create an array item like this, if I put 2, 3, and 3 things like that in that, right? I have 3 elements in there. I can change its value like I did here. So C is pointing to 5, 6, 7. I changed the first position, index from 5 to 10, and that's what I got, right? You can make that changes because it's immutable. Mutable means you can change its data. And the string will be different, okay? String doesn't let you do that, so string is not mutable. For example, if I do string of MSG for a message, if I put here a string message for Apple, okay, so I can print the whole string out. I can print a particular character out of the string based on the index. It's very similar to how you do an array. So if I do, like, for example, LBL, not LBL, I'll just say LST items that add. If I grab the first character, that will be the MSG of 0, right? So I grab the first character. I access it the same way as I do with arrays, even though it's not an array, right? Now I grab only the first character, which is letter A, and so when you run the program, you'll see that it actually grabs that first character and puts it right there, letter A here. Okay? So you can grab each individual character by using the index number. One thing you cannot do is, I cannot go into the message 0 and I want to change, the letter A to, let's just say, T. Okay, notice you have a red line here saying you cannot change. It's a read-only type. That's what we mean by it's not mutable. So it's immutable. You can access the data, each individual character, but you cannot change each of those individually like you do here with like the array. Okay? So that is a major difference between the two, even though you access in a very similar fashion. So I just want to point that out. You can replace it. There's some built-in function. You can replace A with a different character, but that's going through a function, and the process behind it is quite different. All right, so that's the two things I want to show you. Now the next I want to show you is, yesterday I showed you about creating arrays A, B, C here, and then I put another one here, 8, 9, 10, and then we have 11, 12, something like that, right? You have 2, 3 single-dimensional arrays, and I want to put that into a 2D array. Now C# is not very friendly when you deal with arrays. You see that in the book, if you read it, you have something that looks like this. You separate each index with a comma here. A comma means the first index is the row, the second is the column. And over here, you would do something like, new int a 2 by 3 column. That's how you declare it. I showed you that yesterday. And when you add data to it, you reference it by using the D of 0, and then 0, that's the index of the first box. I want that to have number 10. Okay, you can do that, and then D of 0 and 1, so row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1, and so on. So it's a 2 rows, 3 columns. This is row 0, row 1. This is 2 rows, 3 columns. This idea of using the comma inside the brackets here, this only works for a what's called a rectangle arrays. Okay, if it's a rectangular, it means you have the same number of columns for every element, every row. Then you use the comma here. if it's not a rectangular table, because some rows may have a different size in columns, then you have to use what's called a jagged array. This is for non-rectangular, irregular size. So you would do it this way. You use the 2 square brackets instead of that single with a comma. Okay? So if I do here, let's just say scores is equal to, and then you would do something similar, new int, and then something like that. You have to specify the size. So you have like a 2. The column, it doesn't matter. You don't have to specify because the column is not going to be the same. It will be different, right? That's the reason of the jagged array. It's not rectangular. You might have some data that looks like that. Some might look just two data. Some might have, that many data. So each row has different number of columns. That's the jagged array. This one is rectangular. So if this is the case, you do this way, and you use the 2 brackets here. You access it using 2 brackets. So it's very different. Java, you don't have this issue. It's just the same method here. So with the jagged array, then I can go and then do something like this. Instead of doing this way, I'm just going to say it's an array of arrays I mentioned to you yesterday. The first one, I could put A in here. It's an array, and then B, and then C. Okay, so it's an array of one-dimensional arrays. You put that inside here. Instead of copying what I did yesterday, like you put that in here like this. You could do that too if you want, but you can write it out the array separately outside and just put that inside here instead. So now I've built a table that looks kind of like this. You kind of see 3 rows and 3 columns. So 3 rows, 3 columns, and you access each of those based on the rows and columns. So row 0, row 1, row 2, right? Column 0, column 1, column 2, that way. So if you want to grab the number 34, that's the last row, the last column. That would be row 1, row 2, column 2. Okay, so if you want to print that out to the table here, scores of row 2, column 2, that's going to give you the number 34. Okay, and if you do one more, like row 1, column 2, row 1, column 2 gives me 10. All right, and let me turn these off up here. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so you see that it prints 34 because that's the last one here, and then a row 2, row 1, column 2 is 10, so you get 10. Now to loop through this array, if you want to loop through the array here, it's a 2-dimensional array. We know how to do in 1-dimensional array, it's pretty simple. 2D arrays, you have to loop through the row first and then the column that way. So you're going to have what's called a nested loop. Alright, so you would do like for int coming from the row, starting from row 0 until row is equal to or less than the length of the entire row. We have 1, 2, 3 rows of the scores. So score has length of score, that's going to be 1, 2, and 3, so not including 3, and we increase the row each time. So that's the row, and then now I have to loop through the columns, each column this way, vertically. So you do another loop inside here. For each column, I'll set the column to 0, and then column is going to be until column is less than, in this case we know that there are 3 columns, so you could put 3 here, and then column plus plus. So now I can print each numbers in here based on the index. I can then say LST items.add. I'm going to add the scores at the row of the column position. So now I'll print every number, every value from this table here, starting with 5, 6, 7, right? I maximize the row, a column will move to the next row, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So I'm going to print everything from this table to the list box. And this is a very common algorithm to print data from a 2D table. Okay, so you see that I print every number out from that list to the output here. And you have to do that. This way you have control of where you're at, because you control the index positions in here. Now another method to do this is, so again, go over the book if you are not really clear, and we'll keep doing this as we move along. This is not the last time. I'll show you another way to do this in a much simpler way. The way I did here is I printed everything out from that table. Okay, if that's the goal, if you're going to print everything out in that order from, top to bottom, left, right, you would use what's called a for each loop. There's a for each loop. That will take something like that. Inside the for each header here, you're going to grab the data inside each of these lists here. What kind of data is it? It's going to be a data of integer. Okay, so if you look at this one here, the first row is a row of array of integer. So you would say for each int of array, right? If I do this, if I say for each int of number in the array of scores, if I do that, you see that it has an error because it says cannot convert the type with the bracket to integer, because each row is an array. So that means this is the number of rows. So I would say for each row, right? Each row is an array and the scores. So if I print that out, you're going to get just the row numbers, and C# doesn't like that because it's not, it's an object. So if I just do that, I'm not going to get the actual numbers. I'm going to get something very different. Okay, so see if we print it out, you get a arrays. Each row is an array of int 32, which is integers, right? So if you grab the actual data out of that, then you have to do differently. Again, so you have to do another loop here for each, and then int number in the row. Then grab those number and add them to the list. The number. Okay, so I still do two loops here, a nested loop, but I don't care about the index. Just say for every row of array in the scores, for every number in that row, print it out. Okay, so now you see that I get the same number as before, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 34, and that's another way how you can do it. This way, though, you don't have control of where you're at. You don't know where you're at unless you have a counter in there, which is kind of like it's defeating the purpose. And that's the basic idea of using for each. Print everything out. Okay, so now I'm going to do something a little bit more practical that you can apply to our game. Knowing how we can build array structures this way. Okay, I'm going to go and turn all these off. And so think about this when you build your game, especially dialogues, or when you want to play sound effects, or randomly select a monster or event or some type of challenges in your game. So let's just say that for this example, I'm going to have a string of messages. Okay, it's a string of messages. It's going to be just 1D array for now. And I'll call this one your messages is equal to a string of messages. So this is a string. So this one could be like attack, message to attack. What could be like turn left, I don't know, whatever it is. Jump, or maybe run, right? Something like that. And based on that selection, or if you want to randomize this, you can do that as well. You use a random number, and I used a random number so you can see how you can apply this to many scenarios in your game. When you want to attack, you can randomly select an HP or a value or a weapon to attack. But let's just say I'm going to go in here and generate a random number between these lists here from 0 position all the way to n. In this case, it would be 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3 only. If I add more, then it will grow. So instead of doing something like from 0 to 3, I just put the 0 to the length of the string. Okay? So I'm going to have a integer here, the index, IDX, for that index. It's going to be the random, or I need to create a random function first. So random object, I'll call it R, equal to new random, and this is how you use random numbers. You create a new random first, called R, and then I'm going to say from R.next, it's going to give you a number between a certain range. If you don't put the range in there, it's going to give you a maximum. The maximum is the integer type. It's a huge number, right? 2 to the 32 power. So between 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4, because there are 4 items in here. But I don't want to do that because if I change to 5 or 6 or 10, I have to manually change this. So instead of saying this, I'm going to say it to the length of the messages. Okay? That will give me the length of that automatically. I don't care what the size is. It's going to go from there to the length of messages. And it's not inclusive, okay? So the length is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index is from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. And it's perfect because when I grab the data from the messages, that's all I get. So the random number generates from this inclusive left minimum. The maximum does not include in the random. Okay? So then now once I got the index number, it could be 0 or 3 or 1. I can print that out to the message box. Text equals the messages of the index, whatever the index is. And just so we want to see what the random number is, I could list that random number here. I'll put here the IDX. Okay? So when you run this app here, and when I click random, you see that it grabs the third index is 3. Right? It's 3. And 3 is 0, 1, 2, and 3 is run. That's what index 3 is run. If I do it again, it found me a 3 again. If I do it again, it gets me a 2. Index of 2 is 0, 1, 2. It jumped. Okay, so this is how you randomize in your game. And so when you do an attack, you can randomize between a number between 1 and 10. That is the number of hit or the strength of the attack. And based on the number, you're going to grab the number from a certain list of other numbers and use that for your whatever reason you want to use in your game. Okay. This is for randomly just generated. You could have it so that when you come to a T section or when you meet a monster, what do? Do you attack? Do you turn left? Or do you jump? Or do you run? Okay? So based on what you do here, then you can have options show up here. And then based on what you have, you can click those. Okay, so based on whatever you click will trigger that event. And if I click attack, then you would go to the attack mode and then you attack. If you want to say, I want to skip it, I want to run, you click run, and then you will completely, go to a different scene and so on. Okay, so this is a very simple one to show you that this is something that you can use. So in because our game is is just mainly still text-based. So when you go to town, when you talk to a stranger, talk to somebody, you can grab a messages of messages. Okay, and you can track those and check if they happen what to talk to. So another thing you can do, very common, is you do something like because when you meet the same person for the second time, usually you will see that you already established that connection with that character, and they're not going to treat you like a stranger, right? Sometimes you see, hey, welcome back, right? Because they know you. If it's the first time you talk to, then you can track that conversation. And once your character meets another character, then you would turn a certain value to be true and false. So you would do something like this as well, very similar. But I told you about yesterday about the parallel arrays. Okay, so you have like the character, and then you have 5 characters, and then each based on those 5 characters, you might have something like spoken to or not, and then that is either true or false. Okay, so if these were the characters, and actually really quick here, characters, and let's put that. Let's say those are A and then B and then C. These are the people that we encounter in those villages. And then you have another Boolean type here. So Boolean of Arrays. Bool. This is like met or something, right? All of them for the first time will be all false, 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 false. So the first time you meet them, and then you would do something like that. Okay, so when you met the person B for the first time, then you would then say, a Boolean of, a met of person 0, 1, 1 is now true. So you track that person's interaction with your character, and so the next time around, when you meet that person B again, you check, have you met before? And if it's true, then now you would generate a different type of conversation to your character with that character, right? And not always like, oh, hi, welcome, hey, it's nice to see you first time. Right? It doesn't make sense that way. So this is how you track your data. And I hope that kind of trigger some ideas that you may have thought of how you can put arrays into your game. And same thing with sound effects. Here I have a list of a tag. I just showed you a random number. Instead of a text in here, you can put sound effects in here, like we did up here, right? We did the sound stuff. I put like Ninja sound effects, and I have the background sound effects, background music here. Okay, so I could very well do something like this too. And I would do something like, for example, if I do a random number, instead of playing those messages, I could use a random number to play my audio. For example, I could do that really quick here. Just say again the well, you could do for two scenarios. The index will be, I'll do another one, int sfx is equal to r next, and we have only 2, right? The sound effects or the background music. So if I say if it's not good, we use the switch case, right? Switch sound effects. If the option is if it's a 0, then I want to play the BG music. Okay, and then break. If it's a 1, then play Ninja music effect, and then break. Okay? So either one of those 2. And if you want to put a third one, else, this is the default, then I don't know play nothing, right? Yeah, there's no third. Or just ignore. But in this case, it's going to be 1 or 2. Again, not inclusive, from 0 to 2. If I do that, it's the same thing I was saying, from 0 to 2. And 0 and 1 only, not inclusive 2. Okay? So when you run, and when I click this, okay, it randomly, it's a 2, so that's a ninja. 0, I think I didn't turn the volume on, or something. Okay. I keep playing the same one. So that's how you would do it when you want to play something in your sound effects. And you have what I had was like, I put in the switch case here, very common. You can use the if block, or you can put this inside an array as well. Array of objects. This will be object. This is all object or functions. Okay, so that is all I want to show you. Now, tomorrow is Thursday and Friday. I want you guys to focus on, I mentioned yesterday about the character and the, I guess, the high level stuff about the game. Something that is applied to like the main town and our main character. Okay, so something that we can all agree to build our character. We need to do that as soon as we can, so that when you build your own scene, your own level, you can use those global data to your game, like about your characters and things like that. So I would like you to think about what type of design we need to put into our character. So by doing that, I would like you to go into the Trello site when you have time, and again, make sure you are in your own Trello board for your team's project. This is the RPG game. This is the overall one. So I'm going to add another column here, even the to-do, or maybe somebody want to take an initiative in adding here things about our character, a bounty hunter. Okay, we didn't have a name yet, but I guess we're still a bounty hunter for now. So I think we did have some issues about, some things about like the HP levels and some of the features about our character. So I would like someone or anybody to go in here and just create like about our character and put it in here. And we'll add those fields like maybe this about the age of our character, right? So we can have some idea what that is. The HP level, what do we call those numbers in HP? Do we go from like 0 to 100 or 0 to 10 or what? Okay, so we need to set in that. Does our character have a very common, a bag or a chest or something of some sort to store our other things that we found, right? Something like that. Do we need to put a skill level to our player? Okay, and then also like to have a column in here somewhere about, maybe I'll add one here, for example, about messages. What type of messages that our character will use, like dialogues for our main character and dialogues for the other characters in that main town, because that main town is for everybody, right? So when the bounty hunter goes back to town, we mentioned that we're going to have 4 tasks with 4 journeys, so that means we're going to meet at least 4 different people. So those 4 people, who they are and what kind of dialogues do they have between our characters. Okay, so those will be in this global board here, the RPG game board. So let's think about that, and we start building that as well. And also the main menu, I have it here, what that main menu will look like. What does it have? It would have like a play game, start game, config game, or what. So we need to add those things in here as well. Again, right now just brainstorming, so go in there and add what we think it's meaningful. And for those who of you who are actually currently playing games, you can add some stuff in there that you think will be used for this game. Some related stuff like main menu game stuff. Very simple ones. So this will be for the town that we start. And then for each individual town or level or stage that your team creates, then you have your own stuff. Okay, it's not going to be related to the main town at all. You have your own characters in there. You have your own, enemies or objects you need to track of. So those will be independent for that level. But anything that's in the global space will apply to this global level here, like scores, where you keep track of scores. That's something global. When our main character got hit or something, that's global, because that can be visible in every level. That's something that is attached to our main game and to our hero. Okay. Yeah. So think about that, and we're gonna slowly build that into the game. And hopefully that by early next week, we're going to go into the code and start putting things together here. So the first thing I want to do is to have that done. And then next week, we're going to come in here and we'll start building the game, like the main layout for this town. This will be, like, for example, the main screen of the game, the main town. So every time when we start the game, it will load the screen here, what it looks like, and then we have maybe a button here for, task, right? You click on that button here, and it will load the task that you need to go to. Or you could say, task 1, task 2, or those people who actually hire a bounty hunter to do those tasks, and you would just click those, okay? And then when you click on this task here, it will display the information here in the same screen. Or we could do, it will load a separate screen, like I showed you last time. And that separate screen will explain what the tasks are for that, stage or that journey to be completed. It will show, like we mentioned, the level of difficulty. And we can decide what we need to do that. Is it based on numbers or based on some of the bar chart or what, right? And then if we want to go there and just say click and then just accept, right? Accept that, and then we'll click that, and then we'll load your scene. Okay, we'll load your scene. We'll go to your scene, and we'll start the game there at that point. And by the time when we completed that level or that journey, and we're going to come back to this main screen again. So when we come back here, we will mark, like if this is the second journey, they will mark this as completed, or put a check mark there or something like that. And if you click it again, just, oh, you already completed this journey, whatever it is, it's done. Okay, so you need to mark those as we go along the game here, so we can see the progress of our game. And maybe you will have like what I have here, play, but then maybe you have it as a BG music, BG background. And when you play this game, maybe you want to allow the player to, play the music in the background or turn it off. Some people don't like BG music when they play games. So you can turn that off if they want to, and you can toggle that on and off, which is pretty convenient. So that will be something in the global as well, right? And our main screen will have something global, some global commands that's always available throughout the entire game. It doesn't matter which level you play, but some are very specific and independent to your own level. Okay, so let's decide on the main town screen, what it looks like, and the features that our hero should have. And we'll build that, and we'll move forward from there. And then we need to come up with, again, those messages that we need to put for, like when you go to that first person, what kind of messages we need to put in there. Again, you store those inside arrays, right? We track those based on arrays, and so on. And next week, if not next week, maybe the week after, I'm going to show you how to build an object. So our character object is really important because we want to be able to pass that object or the character from scene to scene. Okay, what that means is like when you create your game, we're going to have a lot of scenes in here. And by that, I need to show you also how to jump from one form to another. So notice here we have just one form called form 1. Okay, we can go here and add another form. So you can see just basically add a new form, that's all. Now here, but easier up here. Project, add new form. So this could be like, you know, I don't know, level 2. Okay, here's level 2. And you can see it's level 2 here. So I can do it again for level 3 and so on. So each of these have their own separate design. So the form 1 could be, I could rename that to the main level or call it home. Right? This could be home. Home. When I click the first option, it goes to level 1 or level 2. We'll complete this, we'll come back to home, and then we go to level 3, and so on. So your team will be responsible for completing level 2 or level 3, whatever we call these inside the game here. Okay, so we'll start doing that after next week and moving forward. All right, so I think that's it for today, and sorry about your computers having your Wi-Fi stuff. Hopefully you get your computers back tomorrow. And so have a safe afternoon. Yeah.
You won't have access to the Wi-Fi until the middle of next week.
Really? Oh boy.
Yeah. Virus is that bad.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but what can you do, right?